US inflation rises to 40 years high. UK inflation reaches 10.1%. Europe inflation rises to 10.9% in September, and many more. The world is struggling with inflation and cost of living is increasing day by day. Inflation is an economic activity, but how it affects the supply chain we'll try to understand in this video. Before moving forward, kindly subscribe to the channel for more supply chain related videos. It helps us to grow. There is a famous saying, supply chain drives inflation, inflation drives changes in the supply chain. So we will divide our discussion into two parts. First, how supply chain is being affected by inflation. Second, what leaders should do to counter it. First, supply chain and inflation. Inflation measures the rate of rising prices in the economy. Prices increase when supply reduce and demand increase. Since 2021, supply chain disruption at ports and difficulty in securing product from China, port problems, energy inflation caused by war in the Ukraine, disruption in warehouses caused by bottlenecks and labor shortage contributed to the supply shortage. Typically, procurement managers respond to high inflation by placing order promptly, trying to secure supply and build inventory. Aggregated across the whole economy, this increase in demand increased the gap between demand and supply, hence worsen inflation. Inflation in the supply chain can cause a ripple effect on prices, causing supply chain costs to rise, which cause more inflation and increased price. Inflation due to supply chain issues like demand-supply mismatch, port congestion like Suez Canal will decrease by itself when the supply issues are resolved. For example, shippers spent much of last year soaring ocean shipping rates and ships waiting for the days to unload once they reach their destination port. But SHIFEX, the Freight Forward Rate Index, recently recorded the lowest ocean freight rate between China and the port of Long Beach in 24 months, a rate of $3,500 to move a 40-foot container. This is 80% drop year on year. But the current inflationary pressure is caused by increase in production costs such as wages, raw material, energy and transportation, which tends to last for a long period of time. Whatever be the reason, inflation is always tends to disrupt the supply chain. So in this situation, how supply chain manager should react in order to mitigate the impact of inflation, let's discuss. There are certain measures which supply chain or procurement managers can do, like overstocking or buy more to ensure supply. Second, to find out new low-cost supplier and ensure the consistent rates. But either of these resolutions require high level of research, and these are time consuming with very less success rate. So rather than reacting to the problem of inflation when it occurs, the prudent way to plan for it. There are two proactive ways by which any organization can proactively react to the situation. One, by doing supply chain risk management. Second, creating resilient supply chain. We have separate video on supply chain risk management. You can check it out on the I button here. Let's discuss creating resilient supply chain. A resilient supply chain is defined by its capacity for resistance and recovery. But to be truly resilient, a supply chain must be able to forecast and anticipate disruption, and in many cases avoid them altogether. So how resilient supply chain work? First, optimizing production with supply chain planning. Through supply chain planning, supply and demand requirements are better understood and production is harmonized. This connected, forward-looking approach helps business better anticipate issues, limit the impact of supply chain disruption and improve overall operation. Second, understanding and leveraging data. When a business has the digital system in place to analyze and make sense of big data, it leads to significant improvement in supply chain resiliency. News, competitor activity, sales reports, and even customer feedback can all be analyzed altogether to spot trends and opportunities. This powers intelligent automation across the network and gives supply chain managers the real-time insights they need to respond quickly to disruption and unexpected events. Third, diversifying suppliers and manufacturing partners. Traditionally, supply chain managers look to minimize the number of partners and suppliers in their network to reduce operational and logistical complexity. This strategy relies upon social, environmental, and political stability. Unexpected disruption in one region can impede or even halt operation across the entire network. So, the cost of retaining multiple supply locations must be seen more as a cost of doing business rather than an efficiency. 4. Implementing capacity and inventory buffers. Supply chain profitability has long depended upon minimizing surplus and keeping inventories as lean as possible. Capacity and inventory buffer cost money, and supply chain managers have often gambled against disruption in order to keep costs low. When the pandemic hit, many companies learned the true cost of the gamble. Companies should move from just in time to just in case when it comes to restructuring their supply chains and manufacturing operation, and shift their investment priorities toward resilience building solutions. So let's discuss what are the benefits of a resilient supply chain. First, more efficient operation. Greater resilience often leads to minimized risk and greater ability to invest in innovation and growth. In a 2020 global business analysis, Bain and Company reported that companies that had prioritized investment in supply chain resilience had up to 60% shorter product development cycle and were able to expand their output capacity by up to 25%. Second, improve productivity. Resilient supply chain technology contribute to an overall rise in productivity across the system. 2020 survey by McKinsey, supply chain leaders from around the world report improved production as a result of resilient supply chain system, and 93% of those surveyed plan to make resilient supply chain strategies a top priority for investment in the coming year. Third, risk reduction. Supply chain operation often present the greatest area of risk and loss in many companies. By their nature, supply chains are globally dispersed and complex in their functionality. This makes them especially vulnerable to risk. Resilient supply chain technology reduces risk by allowing visibility into all operation across the network and empowering business to optimize and adapt their process and logistic in real time. So this is how you can counter inflation and save your supply chain efficiency and effectiveness. Hope you like this video. Do subscribe the channel. Thanks for watching.